You're not slow, you're not weak, and you're definitely not lazy. But what if the harder you train, the more you're teaching your body to run worse? What if your training isn't failing, but silently corrupting you? For a long time, I believed the problem was me. I believed that if my running wasn't improving, it had to mean I wasn't disciplined enough, not consistent enough, not tough enough. So I did what serious runners are taught to do. I trained more. I pushed harder. I made sure every run felt earned. Easy runs got faster. Hard runs got more frequent. Rest felt like weakness. And yet, something unsettling started to happen. The more committed I became, the heavier my legs felt. My pace stopped moving forward. I wasn't injured. I wasn't skipping sessions. On the outside, everything looked like progress. On the inside, something felt wrong. That's when a disturbing question hit me. What if the issue isn't effort at all? What if the problem isn't that you're undertraining, but that your training is corrupted? Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one talks about. You can be highly disciplined and still be training yourself in the wrong direction. You can be consistent and slowly teach your body to run inefficiently. You can work hard every day and unknowingly sabotage your own progress. If that idea makes you uneasy, good, it should. Before we go any further, welcome to the channel. If you care about running smarter, not just harder, subscribe now. This channel exists to break dangerous myths, explain the science behind performance, and help you escape the traps that keep runners stuck for years. Because once you see what's really happening under the surface, you can't unsee it. That question stayed with me longer than it should have, because once it's planted, it starts changing the way you look at everything. The moment it really clicked wasn't during a race or a hard workout. It was quiet. I was scrolling, half focused, when I saw an image that immediately made me uncomfortable. A brain at the top, legs at the bottom, and between them, the pathways that are supposed to carry clean signals were cluttered with one phrase, repeated over and over again, junk miles. Underneath it, a warning message that felt almost personal, inefficiency detected. I remember stopping and staring at it longer than I expected to. Because for the first time, the problem wasn't being framed as weakness or lack of motivation. It wasn't blaming bad genetics or poor recovery. It was suggesting something far more unsettling, that the system itself was being trained to malfunction. That image forced a shift in perspective. Running wasn't just about building a bigger engine anymore. It was about communication, about whether the messages sent from the brain to the body were clear, intentional, and specific, or distorted by repetition without purpose. What bothered me most wasn't the image itself. It was how accurately it described my own training without ever mentioning mileage, pace, or effort. It didn't accuse me of not trying hard enough. It quietly implied something worse. I wasn't failing. I was teaching my body the wrong language. Once I accepted that idea, I had to confront something even more uncomfortable. I had misunderstood what running actually is. For years, I thought of training purely in terms of fitness. Stronger heart, bigger lungs, tougher muscles. If those systems improved, performance was supposed to follow. But that image kept pulling me back to a different truth. None of those systems operates in isolation. They are all commanded, timed, and coordinated by the nervous system. Running isn't just about how much energy you can produce. It's about how precisely that energy is released, step after step, under fatigue. Every stride is a decision made by the brain in milliseconds. How stiff should the ankle be? How long does the foot stay on the ground? How much force is enough, and how much is waste? And the nervous system doesn't respond to motivation or intent. It responds to repetition. That realization changed how I looked at my own training. I wasn't just conditioning my body, I was programming it. Every run was reinforcing a pattern, teaching my system what normal felt like. The question wasn't whether I was working hard enough, it was whether I was teaching efficiency or reinforcing dysfunction. Once you see running this way, the real danger becomes obvious. It's not missing workouts. It's repeating the wrong ones often enough that inefficiency becomes automatic. And once I started seeing training as programming, one pattern stood out immediately. Junk miles aren't bad because they're slow, and they're not bad because they're easy. They're bad because they sit in a gray space where nothing is clear. The effort is just high enough to demand attention, but never high enough to demand precision. You're working, but you're not learning. You're tired, but you're not adapting. That's why junk miles feel productive. The breathing is controlled, the sweat is real, and the pace looks respectable. There's a quiet satisfaction in finishing a run knowing it wasn't easy. I chased that feeling for a long time, thinking it was discipline. But what those runs were really doing was introducing noise into the system. The nervous system thrives on contrast. Clear, easy. Clear, hard. Junk miles blur that contrast until every run starts to feel the same. The brain stops refining movement and shifts into survival mode. Efficiency fades gradually, not dramatically, which is why most runners don't notice it happening. I didn't lose speed overnight, I lost sharpness. My stride became heavier, ground contact lasted longer. Runs felt increasingly expensive, even when the pace didn't change. That's the danger. Junk miles don't break you. They slowly teach your body that inefficiency is acceptable, and then they make it automatic. Once I understood what junk miles were doing beneath the surface, I started noticing patterns that were impossible to ignore. The first sign showed up in my pace distribution. On paper, my training looked varied, but in reality, most of my runs lived in the same narrow band. Easy days drifted faster than they should. Hard days never truly separated themselves. Different intentions, same output. That's not versatility. That's a system stuck in one gear. The second sign was more subtle, but more exhausting. I was never fully depleted, yet I was never genuinely fresh. There was always a low hum of fatigue in the background. Not enough to force rest, just enough to dull sharpness. I had a normalized feeling, a little tired, assuming that was the price of commitment. The third sign didn't show up in my breathing or heart rate. It showed up in my movement. Late in runs, my form unraveled before my lungs did. Stride timing fell apart. The run felt sloppy, not slow. That disconnect was the clearest warning of all. None of these signs screamed injury or overtraining. That's what made them dangerous. They felt manageable, acceptable, even normal. But together, they painted a clear picture. I wasn't building resilience, I was rehearsing inefficiency and calling it progress. Once you recognize those signs, the instinct is almost automatic. Fix it by doing more. That's the mistake I made next. I told myself the solution was extra mileage, tighter discipline, fewer excuses. If I was already tired, I assumed that meant I was close to a breakthrough. So I doubled down, and for a while, it felt responsible, mature even. This is what serious runners do, right? But something counterintuitive happens when you pile more work onto a system that's already confused. The body doesn't sort itself out under chaos. It adapts to whatever pattern is most consistent. When the signal is noisy, adding more volume doesn't clean it up. It amplifies it. Each additional run just reinforces the same blurred message. Move fast enough to be uncomfortable, slow enough to survive, repeat tomorrow. I wasn't building toughness, I was building tolerance for inefficiency. What made this so hard to catch was that nothing collapsed. There was no dramatic burnout, no obvious injury, no clear red flag telling me to stop. Progress just stalled. And stalled progress is easy to blame on genetics, age, or lack of talent. The truth was more uncomfortable. I wasn't failing because I wasn't working hard enough. I was failing because I kept teaching my body the same flawed lesson and expecting a different result. That realization forced me to stop asking how much more I could handle and start asking a different question. How do you clean the signal? The answer wasn't dramatic. It wasn't extreme. It didn't involve heroic workouts or sudden breakthroughs. It was almost disappointingly simple. The nervous system doesn't need more stress to reorganize itself. It needs clarity. Easy days stopped being negotiations. They became intentionally easy, not as a concession, but as a reset. Those runs weren't about endurance alone anymore. They were about restoring rhythm, letting movement feel smooth again without tension or urgency. Hard days, when they happened, became rare and specific, shorter, sharper, focused on quality instead of exhaustion. They sent a clear message instead of a vague demand to suffer. And then there was speed, used sparingly and carefully. Not to prove fitness, but to remind the system how efficiency feels when everything lines up. Those brief moments of coordination did more to restore my stride than weeks of grinding ever had. Nothing about this felt lazy. It felt precise. For the first time in a long while, my training wasn't just accumulating fatigue, it was rebuilding trust between my brain and my body. That's when progress stopped feeling forced and started feeling inevitable. As the noise faded and the training became clearer, I started to understand why this idea is so hard to accept in the first place. Most of us were taught that progress in running comes from toughness, from pushing through discomfort, from proving again and again that we can endure more than yesterday. Slowing down, simplifying, or pulling back feels like betrayal. It feels like letting go of control. And for runners who take pride in discipline, that can be deeply uncomfortable. I remember the anxiety that came with my first truly easy runs. They felt wrong, almost irresponsible. Part of me was convinced I was losing fitness by not pushing, but underneath that fear was something else I hadn't felt in a long time: clarity. Runs ended with energy instead of depletion. Movement felt coordinated instead of forced. That emotional shift matters because frustration isn't a sign that you're failing. It's often the first sign that you've outgrown the strategy you're using. Plateaus don't always mean you need more grit. Sometimes they mean your body is asking for a cleaner conversation. If this idea creates resistance in you, that's normal. It means you care, and caring is exactly what makes it possible to change how you train without losing who you are as a runner. And that's where I want to leave you, not with a prescription, but with a different lens. The next time you lace up your shoes, don't ask how hard today's run should be. Ask what kind of message you're sending. Is it teaching calm efficiency or rehearsing controlled struggle? Is it creating contrast or blurring everything into the same effort again? Your body is always listening. It doesn't filter intentions or reward suffering for its own sake. It simply adapts to whatever it hears most often. That's why guessing rarely works, and grinding eventually backfires. If you want to keep exploring this idea with me, start small. Look at 1 week of your training and notice where the signals get muddy. That awareness alone changes how you run. If this perspective helped you see your training differently, stay with the channel, subscribe, and we'll keep breaking down the invisible traps that hold runners back, not with hype or shortcuts, but with clarity, patience, and honest work. Because before you train harder, it's worth making sure the signal is worth repeating. When I step back and look at this entire journey, one truth becomes clear. Progress is rarely blocked by a lack of effort. More often, it's blocked by a lack of clarity. We live in a culture that rewards pushing harder, moving faster, and filling every day with noise. But the systems that truly matter, your body, your mind, your long-term growth, don't respond well to constant pressure. They respond to intention. The deeper lesson here goes beyond running. In work, in relationships, in life, repeating the wrong patterns with more intensity doesn't fix them. It only reinforces them. Real change starts when you pause long enough to ask whether what you're repeating is actually moving you forward. So, here's a simple question I'd love you to answer in the comments. Where in your life do you feel busy but not truly progressing? Share your thoughts so others can learn from your perspective. And if this kind of honest, thoughtful exploration resonates with you, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is what allows this space to keep creating meaningful content.